Hey, what's going on, guys? Boys and girls, welcome back to another live stream. All you Caspians out there, welcome back. And even if you somehow found yourself in this live stream and you don't support Caspa, stick around, hang out. We don't bite. Although, it's been a rough last couple of years, so maybe some of us will bite. I don't know. How's the volume? I think it's good on my end. So, how's everyone feeling today? Before we get started, let me know how you feel. What are you drinking? Welcome in, Lexi, the What Ups, Kill Quincy. Chazzy, what's going on? So, also, by the way, have you guys ever seen the movie Cool Runnings? I found this in my closet. One of the best movies of all time, in my opinion. So I have to sport the shirt on stream today. All right. So, the main thing I want to talk about today is the potential rate cuts that are right around the corner. And we'll get to some questions, obviously, in a little bit. So get your questions in. And sorry, I just thought the microphone dropped on me. Yeah, so get your questions in. We'll get to them a little bit later, but the main thing I want to talk about today is the potential rate cuts, and we may or may not have some good news here. And I'm going to pull up a website that I didn't get set up ahead of time, so bear with me for 2 seconds here. Bear with me. Here we go. Shrink that down a little bit. Okay. So, apologize if that whiteness is blinding anybody. It's extremely bright. But, Fed Governor Waller says central bank could cut rates as early as July. And he was interviewed today by CNBC. This is obviously not Jerome Powell, so he gets the final say. Although I think it's kind of a joint, I don't know if it's like a group vote and the majority wins or what happens there. But this is Christopher Waller. And he's a Fed governor, which is one of the guys that sits on the panel, the seat, as you will. Federal Reserve Governor Waller says he doesn't expect tariffs to boost inflation significantly, so policymakers should be looking to lower interest rates as early as next month, in his opinion. In a CNBC interview, the central banker said, how come every time I highlight this, it puts that right in my way, so I'm not going to highlight it. In a CNBC interview, the central banker said he and his colleagues should move slowly but start to ease as inflation is not posing a major economic threat, which he expects to continue. I think we're in a position where we could do this as early as July, Waller said, during Squawk Box interviews, CNBC, blah, 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 blah. This would be my view. Whether the committee would go along with it or not is a different question. Now, we don't need to go in and read any more of that because it's just him basically reiterating the same thing. But at least in his mind, he believes that they should start rate cuts slowly, and even as early as July, which is next month. And therefore, basically what he's saying, what he's getting at, is he wants to get ahead of the potential job data and the layoffs that might potentially come. He was saying that in their data, there's some numbers coming through that gives them a little bit of worry moving out the next few months, that the job data is going to be a little iffy. And what he's saying is that he thinks that they should move ahead of that trend, and so that it softens the impact of that when it actually happens, roughly 2-3 months from now or whatever. And that at any point, if tariffs do cause a bigger issue than he thinks is going to happen, inflation does decide to creep up a little bit, then they can just pause, right? If they start slowly, they can pause at any point in time, just like they've done for the last 6 months, and kind of wait things out again. But if everything continues to stay good during that time, then they can just keep lowering rates at a slower pace. And what Jerome Powell apparently wants to do is wait a few months and then massively cut if everything looks good in September, and wants to cut like a point or a point and a half at one time in September. And I don't know which way is better, which way is worse, but it would be nice, for us altcoin holders to have a little bit of relief, because it's been a long ride for us this cycle, and it's been rough. Let's just put it that way. I know you guys have all felt that. I've felt it myself. It's been grueling, to say the least. And so it would be nice if they, potentially did a surprise 0.25% rate cut in July, which would, I think, set the market on fire if it was a surprise, and we would see some really big gains in risk-on assets like altcoins. I don't know how long it would last, but if they continue to cut rates and they end quantitative tightening, obviously things can go up, and we would probably convincingly see altcoins start to outperform Bitcoin again. So I thought that was interesting. At least some of the panel in the Fed think that rate cuts should start happening next month. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Only time's going to tell. And I would still say, even though this is kind of a bullish article and it's kind of refreshing to hear somebody say that, I would still bet Jerome Powell just seems like the most hard-headed dude in the world. And it wouldn't surprise me if we go all the way to September and then he starts to cut rates like everybody is, banking on and betting on right now. But, if we do get a surprise in a positive direction with some cuts, when people are not expecting it, the markets should go absolutely crazy. And that would be fun, because it's been a while, like I said. So, let me know what you guys think about that, as far as what your thoughts are. Do you think that it's, potential, or has a potential to happen, like a 25 basis point rate cut in July? Or are you watching Jerome Powell and saying there's zero chance that guy's going to do anything until maybe September? Let me know. I think either way, we're still going to get a potential altcoin season. I just think it's just a matter of how it's going to play out, right? It might play out a little slower and we get a little, little bit longer of a season, but it's not as violent and it's not as straight up as it could be if we get the rate cuts a little bit later where we only have a couple months to go. There's always the possibility, too, that if they don't cut rates this year, then we might see our first extended cycle. You know, that's also a possibility. I guess I should say I'm not, that wouldn't be my first theory, because I kind of like to assume things are going to happen like they've always happened until they don't. But if we get that, until they don't this year, then, at some point we're all going to be wrong. It's just a matter of when. But it looks like everything's lining up for Q4, so we'll see. We'll see. I want to answer this question real quick from Lexi, and then I got a few more things to go over. But he asked, what do you think about crypto Altseason led by Ethereum? If ETH pumps to 6,000, how much will Caspa? Because on December 2024 peak, Caspa only did a 2x. Example, Sui did a 6x. And this is a good question. ETH will lead the altcoin season. As soon as ETH starts to run, the rest of the altcoins are typically, they typically feel more comfortable following suit. And then usually we get the big caps, like the top 10, top 20, that run first with the bigger market caps. And then all of that, because the money from Bitcoin trickles down into those, because people want to make a little bit more money with some more X's. And then after those kind of move, a certain amount, then that money will start trickling down into mid caps and then into lower caps and then, so on and so on into the real small caps. And so Ethereum technically starts that off. It's what makes the altcoins feel comfortable to start moving finally in the beginning of an alt season. So the second part to that is, if ETH pumps to 6,000, how much will Caspa? I don't know. That would be what, a 2x for ETH, or 2.5x from right now's price. Don't quote me on that because I don't have the price sitting in front of me. Caspa, we don't know because they're going to move at different times probably. Caspa is not going to completely do its full, amount of X's. I would imagine until after Ethereum's done. And so it's kind of, if Ethereum goes to 6,000, that's a 2x. Caspa, for the rest, and if Ethereum tops out at a 2x, maybe Caspa only does, a 5x from here or something like that. I don't know. Maybe a 10x. It's hard to tell because there's a lot of variables that are in play with that. But the last part of this question, so asking or stating that Caspa's peak in 2024 was only a 2x. Example, Sui did a 6x. But you've got to remember that Caspa did a 40,000x before Sui was even launched. Roughly. Actually, it wasn't all before Sui was launched, but a lot of it was. So it had a head start. It's been around a little bit longer, and it did its first major pump before, most of it before Sui was even launched. And so it needed to take a breather. Sui was newer. It hadn't pumped yet, and then it did its 6x. So all of these coins are going to pump at different times. Some of them will, it'll technically look like they're all pumping together, but they won't hit their peaks until different times. And so you've just got to be aware of what you're holding and what it's already done and what it hasn't done, if that makes sense. If Caspa and Sui launched at the exact same time, and Caspa only did a 2x and Sui did a 6x, during the same time frame, I would still say that Caspa is a better buy at that point because it hasn't done its full 6x or even more yet, right? It's really, really hard to tell, but everything will have its day. And Caspa, like I said, needed some downtime. It needed consolidation time after a 40,000x. I'm sorry, not a 40,000x, a 40,000% gain. I misspoke. And a 40,000% is, I don't even know what kind of X that is. That's a lot of X's. So, that's the reason why Caspa did not outperform Sui in this last little leg up, is because it did a monster pump before Sui was even known to be a cryptocurrency. Okay. One other thing I wanted to show you guys is I saw this today and I haven't signed into the account, so let me know, you guys, if this is real. I know I have an account with Magic Eden, which is basically, at least it was the largest NFT marketplace on Solana, and they've now merged into Ethereum and some other chains, but it started with Solana. I thought this was interesting because when you hit the login button up at the top, it gives you a list of wallets that it supports, and I haven't signed in, so I haven't tried to link a wallet, but when you click on this, Castle Wallet and Casware Wallet are actually installed. And so I wonder if you can buy Caspa NFTs on Magic Eden, which is one of the biggest marketplaces in the space, which is cool because that gives a little bit of respectability to Caspa in that sense. I'm going to go in at a later point and try and see what they actually have available. But if you guys want to and you're into NFTs, check out Magic Eden and try to link up your Casware or Castle wallet and see what's out there, see what you can buy. But I know that these new layer 2s that are going to, be live on mainnet fairly soon are all EVM compatible, and so they should be able to be adopted by the vast majority of stuff out there, right? Whether it be DEXs and NFT marketplaces and all that kind of stuff. So I thought that was interesting. Chazzy's feeling anxious. What are you feeling anxious about? I know the markets are a little red right now. Maybe that's why. And I see a comment by the What Ups, but it's not listed on here for whatever reason for me to click on. It says, another fine day at work, kicking back with a green tea in hand, enjoying the show. It was good to see your perspective regarding the 2017 monetary policy compared to current last Friday. Yeah, so if you guys figured out what the monetary policy macro stuff was like in 2017 and kind of compared it to what it's like today, if you guys want to go back and visit my last live stream, we talk quite a bit about that. It's bobsled time, yeah. Sanka, you dead? Yeah, man. Have you guys seen... Some of you guys have had to have seen Cool Runnings, I imagine. Great movie. Great movie. Hello, crazy question to ask, but I'm a newbie in crypto. Can Caspa ever be bought out by anyone else in the future? No. Short answer there. I don't know exactly what you mean by bought out, but it's not a company. It's completely decentralized, and there's a few lead developers, and there's about to be a lot more developers that are going to come on and build. But as far as being bought out, the only way that Caspa could essentially be bought out would be a 51% attack, which is where somebody puts up enough money to buy out, 15% or 51% of the Caspa supply. And there was a recent report out about how much money that would take, and it was like double or triple digit billions at this point because of the security measures and the amount of people mining. It would be nearly impossible for one entity to be able to, 51% attack or buy out the blockchain. Maybe I'll look into that a little bit more and do a video on that report that I saw. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it was a lot of money that it would take in order to actually take over Caspa. And as far as like it's completely decentralized. So if there's developers that think they want to, fork the chain and go a different route, then they're it's more than acceptable for them to do that. But it doesn't usually work out. The original chain usually remains king at that point. So, like, there's a lot of things that people could do, but with the amount of money that it would take to do it and hopefully be successful, it's probably not going to happen. If USDC can be sent using Caspa as a rail, it would be absolutely massive. Home miners being used to send fiat all around the world is crazy. I don't think people get how monumental that would be. Yeah, stable coins are huge. And I've talked about this before. Stable coins are the largest use case, financially and money-wise in crypto, and it's not even close. And so if Caspa gets adopted as the payment rail, kind of like Tron is right now, because it's cheaper, because it's more decentralized, and it's got higher security, more secure, it's cheaper and more scalable and faster to send a transaction, then there is a massive amount of money involved there. And Caspa's price, for multiple different reasons, and market cap will go up. And then the miners are obviously going to get the fees, and the fees are cheap, and they get divvied out to the miners. So it's not like Ethereum where you've got like $100 gas fees at certain times. The miners will get paid a little bit more, but when Ethereum was proof of work, if there's enough transactions, then it's all going to work itself out. Like everything cycles around and comes together and works seamlessly with each other. But something like Tron has stayed alive And for those of you who don't know what Tron is, it's a layer 1, and it's almost specifically used for stablecoin transactions. But it's very centralized, and the founder is kind of a shady character, though a lot of people think. I think he's even been to prison for something related in the space. Don't quote me on that, but I think I heard that. And so it has stayed alive and has done very well just from stablecoin transactions, mostly USDT. And so if KASPA can get adopted, even a percentage of that, when people find out how cheap and fast it is, then, and there's no central entity controlling it, then the possibilities are enormous. Billy Bong, already been making a lick off of KRC20s, made $25,000 off blocks yesterday. Pump it. Good for you. Is blocks... I thought I saw Altcoin Daily post about a coin called blocks. But I didn't look into it because I don't ever look into anything that they post. Because they're a huge channel and it's probably either they're getting paid to promote it or it's too mainstream by the time it gets to them that you have no money to be made left. So I can't imagine that they are talking about a KRC20 project. Billy, let me know. I know the photo was like it was a cartoon guy, white, with a blockhead. I might have to go look that up. I can't imagine that Altcoin Daily is pushing a KRC20 coin. That would be crazy. Absolutely crazy. But let me actually look here. KRC20 tokens. Let me put this on the screen so you guys can see this rather than me just talking to myself. We'll get that off the screen, but is blocks. Okay, yeah, it's a different coin. The logo is not the same as the Altcoin Daily coin. So I'm guessing you rode that pump up. It's already back down 3/4 of the way. Good for you, though, man. It takes a lot of due diligence and a lot of time to dig into, trying to find these gems before they pump and then sell at the top. I wish I had enough time to do that, but now with the baby and I still work part-time, there's a lot of stuff going on in my life. I can't sit at the computer all day as much as I want to. Okay, guys. Have you seen the Jonathan Sompolinsky? I guess it's kind of like an article that he wrote, technically, Back to Building the Block. I had a request to give my thoughts on this. If you guys haven't seen, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's kind of long. But if you go to Jonathan's X page and look for, this photo, building to the block, or back to the block, I'm sorry. Back to building the block. And check out this article. It's actually pretty intuitive. And there's multiple points that he's making in this article. But the biggest one that stood out to me is the let me find it in here. So he's basically saying, let me sum this up. He's saying for a cryptocurrency to climb the hill from top 5,000 to top 50, it needs to appeal to retail. And in order for it to jump from top 50 to top 5, it needs to appeal to institutions more so than retail. And he's basically saying that they are taking an approach to KASPA marketing-wise by letting the community market the product, because instead of having, a single or, 2 or 3 heads of marketing that are marketing, flashy colors and, look over here, red bouncy ball, shiny, to appeal to all of these people for a one cycle pump to the moon and dump and never see light again after that. Kind of like, what was that, that project that everybody was mining last cycle? Kadena. Kind of like Kadena. I imagine that project's never coming back because it had crazy marketing and it was a one-cycle coin. It pumped to the moon and it dumped and it's never come back. And I don't think it will. What Jonathan in this article, one of the points that he makes is that the thousands of community marketers, like myself and a bunch of others out there, are the natural and ground roots way of growing a project that's going to stick around. And you've got to remember that Jonathan was part of the Bitcoin team, right? A lot of people think that he might actually be Satoshi or in the group of people that considers themselves Satoshi because he was in Bitcoin, basically in charge of the security protocols for Bitcoin in the very early days, like 2010, 2011, 2012, and he has seen how Bitcoin has grown over time naturally from the ground up, from a zero market cap, just like KASPA did, okay? And he wants KASPA to be in that category that stays around from cycle to cycle to cycle, builds its market cap, gets institutional investors interested, and it becomes whatever it becomes, right? Whether it be the main payment platform, whether it becomes a store of value, whether it becomes a mixture of both. We don't know yet. And he admits in there that he doesn't really know, but the goal is to grow KASPA just like Bitcoin grew. From nothing, ground roots, community, marketing, and speaking about the project. And there's no figurehead that's out in the public all the time promoting it and, big flashy lights behind marketing campaigns, which usually work in the short term but don't work for the long term. And that was the biggest point that he took out, or that I took out of this article. There's other points too that I'm not going to go over, and maybe I'll do a dedicated video on this, but I highly recommend everybody go read this. And he basically said in here as well that KASPA is a perfect blend of Bitcoin and Solana. because Bitcoin, well, just go read the article. It's clearly stated in there that he thinks KASPA is the perfect mix between Bitcoin and Solana. Because you have, obviously, Bitcoin's fundamentals, but you're going to have smart contracts. It's going to be scalable. It's going to be fast. And it should appeal to the masses in two different categories, in theory, is what he's saying. But the multi-cycle scenario that he's throwing out, where is it in here where he says the group of... I'm going to take forever to find it. So I'm going to paraphrase because I can't remember his exact words. He says the team, the lead developers, are in this for the long haul and they will not give up. This is a project that they are going to see through, through hell or high water, a successful multi-cycle, hopefully getting into a store of value / payment rail or smart contract, whatever you're going to do on the chain, the perfect mix of a Bitcoin and Solana in the future where institutions can't get enough of it is basically what they're envisioning for the future. And the way that you do that is a slower process through ground roots community and not through flashy marketing and a figurehead who's coming out in the public every day with talking points. And that made me feel even better about this project because I wish I could find it in here. It's too long for me to find exactly where it was. But he literally says, our group of core developers are in this for the long haul, and we'll make sure that it's successful, in a nutshell. Paraphrasing, obviously. So, I really liked hearing that. And not that I doubted them in the first place, right? But it was good to hear that they have full conviction that this is going to be, hopefully a top 5 project at some point. And they will see to it that it gets there, following the exact same roadmap that Bitcoin followed. And he can't guarantee anything, obviously. I think he mentions that in here. But they're going to do everything in their power to make sure it's successful and that institutions want to buy KASPA and that it's successful. Multi-cycle coin. And what more can you ask for? Honestly. I mean, more than you can say about a lot of projects out there who are just in it for the money, one cycle, pump and dump, boom, gone. So, what do you guys think about that? Have you read this article, or have you, or do you plan on going to read it if you hadn't heard about it before, till I just mentioned it? Highly recommended. TP asks, Jesse AI says no altcoin season until May 2026. More time to accumulate. It's possible. Anything's possible. I think what he meant is I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but I think what he meant is if we don't see rate cuts this year, then we're probably not going to see an altcoin season until early 2026, until Jerome Powell is out of office and the new Fed leader, whatever they call those guys, is put into a chair and he'll start cutting rates then. if they start cutting rates beforehand and monetary policy befriends us before the end of this year, then we might, we still, I would say we still have a good chance of seeing an alt season in Q4. But it's possible, Does Sai or Caspa make more X's this cycle? Sai has not had a real pump yet. Let me look at them. And I'm using CoinGecko today, guys, because CoinMarketCap, my usual go-to, is telling me that it's a suspicious website and won't let me get on for some reason. Don't ask me why. And CoinGecko is working today, so let's take a look here. Size market cap is 1.1 billion. Caspa's market cap, I think, is higher than that. $1.8. So they're roughly very similar in market cap. I don't know. It's possible that Sai does more X's. The reason I say that is because it's VC backed and they are going to want to pump their coin. But it's also just a kind of a copy paste L1. There's nothing really special about it. When you're comparing it to all the other L1s, it might have small differences. But I could see it go either way, honestly. It's not a bad idea to have an investment in both. Caspa's, done a 40,000% pump, and Sai has not. So you could argue that there might be more X's involved there, with the VCs wanting to pump the hell out of it. I don't think it's a bad idea, like I said, to have an investment in both, and you'll get the pumps from either one at that point, which is why I have investments in Sui and a couple other L1s, Solana as well, is because I like to get a mixture of pure, fair launch decentralized projects as well as some VC-backed projects because the VCs want their money. It's good to diversify a little bit. You don't want to go too crazy having too many projects in your portfolio, but a little bit of both is good because usually when one's pumping, the other is not, and vice versa. Chirp, thank you for the $1.99 donation. CMC got hacked. Apparently I didn't hear about it. That might be why they wouldn't let me onto their website. That explains a lot. I appreciate that. I just thought it was something wrong with my computer. But apparently I haven't looked at any of the news today because if it got hacked, I would imagine other people are talking about it. TP wallet number 2 could be Vitalik or some billionaire crypto guy. It could be. My guess would be that it's an exchange though because of the amount. I doubt Vitalik is buying up all the Caspa. I mean, weirder things have probably happened, but I would say that Vitalik is pretty low on my wallet number 2 potentials. Another billionaire crypto guy, possibly, but it makes more sense for it to be an exchange. But at some point, we'll probably figure out when they label their wallet. And it'll be fun to see Because everybody's got guesses of who it is. We'll see who's right and who's wrong. If it ends up being Vitalik, more power to you for that one. TP, what are your favorite AI cryptos? Funny you ask. I don't have really any AI cryptos in my portfolio. I like Potensor. I would say that's probably my top one, but if you want a lower market cap, where is the AI categories? I can't even think off the top of my head. I've had some in my portfolio at certain times that I liked, but I've sold them. And AI is not even a category, apparently, in here. I'm not used to... oh, there we go. Oh, those are agents. Yeah, I can't think of any off the top of my head unless I saw the names in front of me, because it's been a while since I looked into that category. And honestly, I'm probably not putting any AI in my portfolio. That might be stupid when it's all said and done, because AI is probably literally the most actual use case of crypto in the real world. As far as narrative goes, that's like popular right now. But I literally just, and there's some layer 1 AIs, but I literally only invest for the most part in layer 1s and some meme coins. Caspa, $22 in 2026. If you sell, oh well. I see those wallets and volume. Hell, somebody's buying shit out of. I'm all in. Sorry, I'm butchering this. Somebody's buying. I'm all in. It's going to take time. Yeah. I do agree with you that the price will be higher in, well, 2026 is a little iffy there. I have to probably disagree with the price being at $22 in 2026. I think that's a little too rich for its first cycle, although it could happen. Anything can happen. I doubt there was a lot of people that were expecting Solana last cycle to start from under $1 and go all the way to, what did it go to, 150 or 250 last cycle? So, I mean, anything can happen, but it was VC backed and the VCs were pumping the hell out of it. Caspa might be a slower growth, but it'll stick around longer than most projects, I think. I hope you're right, though, Kings, because if Caspa is $22 in 2026, then I am going to be very happy. So will everyone else on the stream. Yeah, Cas at $22 next year would be insane. That would be insane. I don't even know what that would make its market cap, but it would be astronomical. I don't think it can get that high this cycle. Unless crypto as a whole just goes absolutely insane. Like beyond where we think it's going to go. As far as like the overall market cap. I dragged Caspa for so long. I low-key hated it But after some more research, it's a sleeping giant, in my opinion. Yeah. So Caspa, it can be a little boring because it doesn't have flashy marketing, right? Like a lot of other projects do. But it looks like it has what it takes to hang around. And that's all you can ask for. I would rather, let's put out this scenario. Would you rather be investing in Caspa, right? Let's say, like all of us, this cycle, we have a decent bag of Caspa. Would you rather it go to $22 this cycle and then fizzle out? It never comes back. It's dead. It goes into a bear market after a ton of people have been pumping the hell out of it. It has a marketing team. You get your gains, and then you're just out. Or would you rather it have a slower rise to the $22 range? Maybe it does it next cycle, but it hangs around and institutions start buying it and it becomes something sought after, kind of like Bitcoin is, and you still have a decent bag of it. You may have sold some for profit at, $2 or $3 at the end of this cycle, but you still have your long-term bag and you're just growing it just like the early Bitcoin guys did. And in 10 years from now, you're going to be filthy rich multi-millionaire. I think a lot of people would rather the long-term scenario, to be early into something that is going to stick around and hang out and never go away and be adopted by large institutions, and it's a household name just like Bitcoin. And I'm not saying it's for sure going to do that, but if you go read that article that we just went over by Jonathan, he is dead set on making sure that happens for Caspa. He's not guaranteeing it, but he's going to see it through hell or high water and try and make that happen. He's not going away, so. Worst case, it stays around 20, no movement, but it's going to move. Could take years. If we have an alt season in Q4, then Caspa is going to move with him. It's not going to just stay stagnant. Everything's going to move. I can promise you that. Caspa is the fastest, most decentralized, secure chain. Once it gets huge stables like USDT and USDC, it's all over for other chains. And yes, it's all over providing that the users actually come, right? Because in theory, to you and I, it's common sense that you should move your stablecoin transactions over to Caspa because we understand it, but a lot of people may not. And as long as we can pull a certain percent of the stablecoin market and slowly grow that over the years, we'll be in good shape. I meant Caspa can be strictly what Bitcoin was meant to be for people, and it's a better choice. Yeah, I mean, even Jonathan in that article mentioned that Caspa is kind of an add-on to what Bitcoin was supposed to be because it can scale and it can be peer-to-peer money, right? Whereas Bitcoin can't do that anymore because it's not scaling, and something, in theory needs to take the place of peer-to-peer money. And I would argue that Caspa's set up best to do that. And if nothing else, it's because of Jonathan Sampolinski. You got to keep going back to him because he was early Bitcoin dev, and now he started Caspa, right? He understands what it takes for a project to be successful long term. He rode with Bitcoin since day one. He saw what it did. He saw how it was marketed, right? Ground roots from the community. And he understands what it's going to take to hopefully get Caspa to that point where institutions are begging to get more Caspa, just like they're begging to get more Bitcoin right now. How much Caspa to be million? I'm assuming you mean to be a millionaire. Well, you've come to the right place because I am absolutely terrible at math. But let me try and do this for you real quick. If Caspa hits $3, which I think is my target for this bull run, you will need a little over 300,000 Caspa to be a millionaire. So your target is 3,500,000. That didn't sound right. Target 300,000 first, if you can. Now, if Caspa goes to $22, like, who was it that said that? Was it Kings? Yeah. Then you need a lot less. A lot less. Have you been following Crumpet Media Project and Crumbs Token? I have not. I've heard of Crumpet Media, though. I've actually heard a lot of people talking about it. I think I already read this comment. Maybe Caspa bull next year, not this year. And I'll reiterate that if monetary policy lightens up and we get some rate cuts and end quantitative tightening, we should still get a Q4 bull run, altcoin season. If that doesn't happen, then maybe we do go out into next year. Crypto Live, don't fade XRP. Good luck with CAS. Wow. XRP Maxi in the house, guys. I would argue that, well, it's the banker's coin. It's probably not going to go away, so I'll give you that. But what kind of X's are you going to get off of an already $125 billion market cap? You going to get a 2X, 3X maybe? Maybe a 5X? I don't know. If everything goes flawlessly for it. I like to invest in smaller market cap coins where the X potential is greater. You're getting like an Ethereum 3X scenario, 3 to 5X out of XRP. Probably this cycle. Hey, and if that's good enough for you, more power to you. XRP super centralized. The thing that I don't like about it, let's let's dig a little deeper. Is the team owns like 90% of the coins, and every time there's a little pump, they dump on their holders, their retail investors, because they're making millions of dollars off of, a 40% pump. And the coin is never, ever, ever going to do massive amounts of pumps because of that. You got to be extremely careful when the market cap is $125 billion and the team owns 90% of the coins. They're dumping on everybody who holds XRP on a regular basis, and the maxis just either don't care or don't know, or they're too dumb to even realize that. KASPA is a threat to VC-backed cryptos. It solves problems VCs don't want to be fixed. It's like someone invented a car that runs on air. We will be targeted and slandered, but we'll win in... Yeah. So, yeah, it's... I would agree with that for the most part. Although VCs... Well, no. I would agree with that. They couldn't get into a project like KASPA, although they could have technically bought in after it was launched at a very early price, but they were not given tokens, and they were not given a deal on pre-sale stuff, which is what they thrive on and what their business model is basically. They'll buy in super low and then hold on for a couple years until the peak of the market and then sell it all off. And they'll basically do that all again the following year or the following cycle. And KASPA is more of a scenario like Bitcoin, right? Where eventually it will be sought after, I think. And a lot of people will buy it, but it's going to take a little bit more time to get to that point because it's got to prove to the market that it's going to do what it says it's going to do, right? It's got to be around long enough. It's got to endure more than one cycle and come back strong in order for people to really start to view it as something that they want to put their investment money into, right? Because back in the day, Bitcoin didn't have any institutional investors. It was all, cyberpunk, nerdy computer guys that understood what it was before the rest of the world did. And it, blossomed into what it is today. And I would imagine that KASPA has the potential to do similar things. Now, we're not calling it Bitcoin. For those of you who are going to twist my words around, I'm just saying that I think it's a grassroots project like Bitcoin, same type of fundamentals, 100% fair launched, community marketed, no VCs, pure as can be, and it has a chance to become second fiddle, I think, to Bitcoin at some point in time. Not this cycle. It's got to hang around multiple cycles before people start really taking it serious. Kings, XRP as a trade is great, especially during Ripple dramas, but to hold, no. Team has most of it. Yeah. The team holds like 90% of the tokens. And the 10% that are circulating are just getting flipped around by retail. And as soon as the price pumps, the team dumps, which limits the amount of potential X's it can have. Even as a trade, though, like right now, after, let me put this on the screen. After this pump right here, you guys see my mouse? I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, there we go. After this pump right here, the trade's done, in my opinion. You needed, if you're going to trade XRP, you needed to get in between 30 and 60 cents down here before this straight up God candle. And now you're missing, you know, that was like a 4 or 5x, whatever. And now, what do you have left at that market cap with the team holding all the tokens? I don't know. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. But it doesn't interest me at all. At all. All right, guys. It's been a little over an hour. I'm going to take off. I appreciate everybody for being here, hanging out, and joining in on the conversation. And I will see you guys next Friday. Love you all. Pack your damn bags before it's